Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASIS
The
strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Again, another Monday morning, a new week, fresh one starts there. A new day, 21st day of October 2024. Of course, a pleasure to have you join us this morning on our morning show. Yes, I'm not in the studio alone. Ramsey Lennox is there. Good morning, Ramsey.
Yes, good morning, Michael. When I saw you this morning, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Anytime I see you, maybe because you're chubby. Anytime I see you, I see that.
It now looks that the T-Pain is not having effect on me.
No, it gives a lot of Nigerians hope. You know, when you see people looking good, you'll be inquisitive. Hey, come on, what are these people doing that they are looking this good, very fresh?
That's too much because just yesterday I happened to get a kg of gas at 1,400 against the 1,005 that was predicted. So maybe it looks that something is coming down, but it's not just what we should really celebrate when you're looking at the state of the economy as well.
But the question is, all these promises, when is it going to come to fulfillment?
Well, the president is back.
The president is back.
President
But then
is back, so
I was
we are
asking
looking at-
someone, has it made any difference so far?
The president is back, just as the chief of staff stated on arrival of the president, that the president is back to, not just because he wasn't working when he was on vacation, but, implementing all of those ideas. And, of course, a rested man, he's coming back from vacation, really have fresh ideas. So we look at, too, maybe if there will be a lot of initiatives that probably will crash down the Naira, dollar effect, or look at a bucket of rice that is not affordable to food inflation in the country. Also look at the issues of the NMPC saga within the fuel sector. Just last weekend, or of course last week, the issues of CNG centers were also questionable. We look at all of that. So it looks like the president has a lot of work on his deck to really handle with. So we feel that since he's back, yes, our daddy is back to the country. So
I think I like that word. I like that word.
Daddy,
Daddy is back. But then going on vacation is very important. But as it is, what difference is it going to bring to the table? That's what Nigerians are waiting for. I think the babao that Nigerians need right now is that the price of fuel has gone back to what it is supposed to be. You can now go to the market with 5,000 naira and come back with something that can feed you for a week. Because as it is right now, with 5,000 naira, you can't get food stuff that will feed you for a week. Imagine 1 kg of gas going for as high as that amount. So what would you say to people who cannot afford this? If the fuel price is okay, you can get the gas, kerosene, and other things at a cheaper rate. It will be fine. But then, imagine someone waking up this morning and the only thing the person is thinking is, what will I eat today? Nigeria, Nigeria, this is not bad. But the good thing is this, Michael, Nigerians are very resilient people.
Yeah, of course.
And Nigeria is a land where you can explore so many things. So I think at this point in time, people should start asking questions. What do I do?
And what's also the way forward away from fuel? I mean, what the interactions about energy, because it all looks that we can't really rely much on fuel again. So the price seems not to, I'm not sure of the price really going below where it is today. Even
You're talking about fuel?
I mean, even if our refinery is working, because when you look at the fact that we are out of crude, NPC will tell you we do not have sufficient crude and all of that. So it looks like even if we have more refinery, what happens to the crude naturally that we get to refine all of these products? But so, where there should be interactions away from fuel. What can we now do? Same interventions like the initiative of compressed natural gas, that is CNG. We all looked at Many Nigerians do not know how it works. We've seen some centers or trying to, take advantage of the situation. And they are doing some mano ways. And at the end of the day, we've seen some cars that have been burnt in a Edo State in the process of converting that vehicle. So, can we get to do the right thing? Even when we understand that we're in a very tight situation and away from the fuel. Yeah, CNG is out, but let's get to go to the verified centers for our conversion. We've also seen a Standard Organization of Nigeria also warning many of us, many Nigerians that, oh, look, be careful of the centers you go to convert your gas, your vehicle to the CNG, because it's not all the centers that are verified, So we don't want a situation where we can move from fry pan, situation from moving from fry pan to
fire. Get into the fire. But then the truth is, Michael, we need to tell ourselves the truth sometimes. Nigerians, if you notice very well, Nigerians will go for where there is a discount of, even if it is a naira, if it is 1 naira discount, more so that the economy is not favorable to the people. They will want to, some Nigerians, not all, let me not generalize, but then some Nigerians like cutting corners. Imagine just going to someone and get it fabricated. You don't know what the materials are made up of. Okay, we're talking about compressed natural gas here. Someone may just go and use the ordinary cooking gas and think this is the gas they are talking about, because how much enlightenment do Nigerians have about the compressed natural gas? So what is the National Orientation Agency? What are they doing? Nigerians need to be enlightened, because everyone wants to go for the one that is affordable. One other thing again is the fact that these centers should be everywhere, and it should be accessible, and these things should be made available to all Nigerians. Let it not be the type that you tell us a bag of rice is now going for 40,000 naira, and just a section of Nigerians will have access to it. If you say compressed natural gas, designated centers, it should be accessible by all Nigerians. But then you mustn't forget the fact that Nigerians want it to be affordable, Michael.
Yes, a situation where Nigerians will also be aware, just as stated, in a bid to get things cheap, in a bid to, cut corners. Be also careful, because cheap things sometimes are not really, really cheap, because even in the free town,
they don't last. Nothing is free.
Nothing is free in the free town. So go through the right process, do the right thing, visit the right centers if you must convert your vehicles. Anyways, we'll have a professor join us this morning virtually to enlighten us more on that. And of course, on the government part, do what to let people understand what it takes to convert vehicles. It's not just about launching the initiative, which is fantastic enough, away from fuel, but how much do people, Nigerians, really know about the processes, the centers? Let's get to deepen this to the locality. Well, let's get to go on the break, and once we return from the break, we know that the headlines this morning will always have the big stories for you. So do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofrebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television, getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
Now, a great start of the week is when you catch up the big stories you have. Let's get to the blueprints of this morning. On the front page of the Blueprints newspaper, mob action. Jungle justice on police personnel worry IGP. Others probe. The writer says Inspector slain in a dog quarry attack on a cattle riders killed officer in Lagos. Anambra court clash claims 24 in Rivers gunman attack. Issues of insecurity still intensifies again. The IGP says he's worried over all of these situations and justice and police personnel. Let's get to safeguard the society. Let's get to also speak out when it's necessary. Look at your environment where you find some security threats. Do well to also alert the police. And that's what majorly the IG is crying out this morning. Our reports of Labaja's death, fake news. Army clarifies. That's the reports of the Chief of Army Staff that the Army says and clarified that it is a fake news. So debunk it. It's not real till the confirmation. And that's coming from the Army responding to all of that fake news that makes rounds yesterday. Super Eagles star Boniface survives auto crash after team's victory. That's on page 23 of the Blueprints this morning. Only 17 SDGs healthcare targets on track. World Health Organization. And FBN Holdings revised right issues to 25 naira per share. 20 out of school children recruitment ground for Boko Haram, Obasanjo. 20 million out of school children recruitment ground for Boko Haram. That's coming from the former head of state and the president and former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo. There are all lot of couple of concern right there. But I mean, Ramsey, issues of 20 million out of school children. There's a projection that the recruitment is a ground for Boko Haram, and that those that are probably concerned about, isn't that a way to go? If we have people get from the street and have a way of also engaging them positively, would that solve the issues of our security? Or does it look that we are trying to endanger more when we probably cannot know who we are recruiting?
Well, I think it's very important to know who you're actually recruiting, because this is a sensitive situation, especially in a country where we have a lot of security issues. What should be done is a thorough investigation into whoever that is going to be enlisted. Because if you say Boko Haram, then what have you done to incorporate these people, all right, into the society? This is big money. This is a good initiative. One of the things we talk about all the time in Nigeria is the fact that most of these ideas are not followed to the latter, the way it's been carried out. The implementation is where the problem is, because oftentimes there is no supervision. And when there is no supervision, what do you expect? Anyone will just come do whatever they want to do. At the end of the day, don't be surprised that the people for whom this initiative is meant for may not even enjoy it. But then, number one thing that must be considered is the screening process before these people are allowed to enjoy this benefit. That's very important because the security situation in the country is deteriorating, so a lot have to be done. If anything must be done at all, it should be that the people to benefit from this initiative must be screened and must be the real people.
Yeah, a concern about insecurity. Of course, Obasanjo projecting that recruiting them without knowing them is also aware of also trying to empower the Boko Haram in Nigeria. So a whole lot of concern about that. And it's for, of course, the clarion call that those involved should probably get to do a very professional work in terms of recruitment. There are a whole lot of concern. And just before we wrap it up on the Blueprint newspaper, our reports of the Chief of Army Staff there. You know, just yesterday we had, all social media angles, people were tweeting about the demise of our Chief of Army Staff. And now the Chief of the Army has actually been out to clarify, describing that to be a fake news. And the concern I'm always having about, announcing people's, departure without allowing the family, without allowing the organization to come out face to speak. It's always a practice in Nigeria. Why rush to, make headlines? Why rush to tweet? Why rush to, write what is not yet confirmed? So it looks that, cyberbullying is still real and people are not still going to learn. Because if we say, let's regulate social media now, people, Nigerians, will start knocking on government. Why are you trying to do that? But, it's also going back to what we are using the social media for. So unverified information and announcements that is not real is probably also endangering our national security.
Yes, of course. One of the problems with a lot of people is how this social media is being used. Social media is not to pass wrong information and maybe confuse the people, but this is where the problem is. A lot of people want to make money from the social media. One, people want to be the first to break news, okay? Breaking news comes from me, especially bloggers. Bloggers are going ahead to twist informations to make sure they have people coming to their page. Traffic is what they are looking for. And this has made a lot of people pass across informations that are not real, that are not true. And that is watering down the importance of the social media. Well, social media is key, as a matter of fact, because all the social media platforms are very important and unique in their own sense. But then the usage is where the problem is. Imagine passing that information and a family member gets to hear it. What do you think will happen? This is capable of making someone slump, especially people who look up to some other persons as breadwinners. And this is not true. But I think it's so good that the army, they are proactive. They came up immediately to debunk that statement, that information. I think whoever that spread that fake news, all right, the person should be brought to book, probably. Warning should be sent to people like that so that others can learn. Because if we keep at it like that, at the end of the day, the aim and the purpose of this social media will be defeated. But then, social media should not be regulated because of the Freedom of Information Bill.
Let's show fake
no,
news.
the abuse is something
else.
else.
Fake news.
The abuse has to be stopped.
Confirm and verify your news or your information before circulating. Let's get to other papers, Ramsey.
All right, thank you very much, Michael, for those wonderful headlines. Let's quickly get to the next paper. And our next point of call is the Daily Sun newspaper. Let's see what it has for us. Just beside the nameplate, I have this one which says African leaders launch African School of Governance initiative. And just one rider to that story. The rider says Moghalu appointed pioneer president. All right, that you can get on the Daily Sun newspaper. Moving away from there, I also have this one which says Nigeria misses a 40 billion naira for MBD oil reserve production target. Well, with this humongous amount, and this is happening, I think this calls for scrutiny. As a matter of fact, it should be looked into. Because I don't know why this have to happen. Anything that actually have to do with oil right now, it is essential and it is an information that a lot of people will have to go after. And that takes us to the big story on the Daily Sun newspaper, where it says, bloodbath in Anambra, Edo, Rivers, and Katsina. Bloodbath in Anambra, Edo, Rivers, and Katsina State. What is the bloodbath all about? So many things happening right now, so Nigerians would not want to face more difficulty. But when you hear things like this, I think something is wrong somewhere. Let me just take the riders to that story. Probably we'll have more insight to what that big story is talking about on the Daily Sun newspaper this morning. The first rider says 15 killed in suspected court clash in Oka, that's Anambra State, the issue of courtism. But then, I don't know, there are some things that shouldn't even be named among us. Some things shouldn't even happen at all, looking at the present situation. I think the authorities need to hold whoever that is responsible for this, because at the end of the day, it's innocent souls that will actually face the consequences of this. Who are the 15 persons that were killed? Are they actually court members or court killing innocent people? This should be investigated. This happened in Oka in Anambra State. And now to the next headline. And the next headline says government murder police inspector. Okay, that is 4 others also in Edo and Rivers State. It's a case of murder, and that's the reason they said it's a bloodbath in Edo, Rivers, and Katsina State. And in Katsina is 1 kill as terrorists attack Katsina community. This still boils down to the issue of insecurity. Because if the people are secure, the protection of life and property is the sole responsibility of the government. And that's why we have security operatives. Court activities shouldn't be something that will be disturbing the people, because as a matter of fact, the people should be protected. I think what the authorities should do is to make sure this is investigated. All right, in Anambra State, in Rivers State, in Edo State, and Katsina State. Okay, moving away from there, let's take you to the next headlines on the Daily Sun newspaper. On page 2, we have this one which says, businessmen abandon vehicle importation over high clearance costs, dollars scarcity. It's not just this businessmen alone, but then every business is being affected right now, Michael, because of the constant fall of Naira. Naira is constantly falling like a stone, okay, which is not good for the economy. And some persons keep wondering, because there was a time the former vice president, okay, a former vice president in this country, when the president traveled, did something. We don't know what he did. And dollar crashed. What was it he did? I think these are some of the things we should take cue from. Because if we fold our arms like this and the Naira keep falling and businesses, importation, livelihood is being hampered, it's going to cause more mayhem in the country than we expect. Details of that you can get on page 2 of the Daily Sun newspaper. The next headline says, Tinubu gets new CSO as DSS rejigs security team. Tinubu gets new CSO as DSS rejigs security team. Details you can get on page 25 of the Daily Sun newspaper. And right now, this is going to be, second to the last, please release protesters commemorating EndSARS anniversary at Lekki Toll Gate. That detail is on page 4 of the Daily Sun newspaper. Please release protesters commemorating EndSARS anniversary at Lekki Toll Gate. That is not something to even talk about. That's not something to revisit right now, looking at what happened, the tragic incident that happened at the Lekki Toll Gate. We heard that some persons that were actually arrested for that incident were released several years after, whereas they were not supposed to spend more than 3 to 4 months. But then, who speaks for the poor? And that's one of the reasons a lot of people don't even come out for protest, whether it's peaceful or not. Well, it's so good that they've regained their freedom. And finally, from the Daily Sun newspaper this morning on page 6, we have this headline, which says, Enugu government, please insist no sit at home, assure citizens of security. Michael, this is what's worth talking about. The sit at home in the eastern part of the country has caused more harm than good. That is an agitation for the Biafra people. But then, one thing that I always think about is this. The destructions being caused in the east, okay, is it to the advantage of the people or to the disadvantage of the people? Because after this destruction, after this agitation, and nothing is being done, it's going to take you some more years to get these infrastructures built again. Some persons that were actually murdered because of this incident, because they refused to sit at home, will not come back to life again. And this is a minus for the people. Remember, there was also an agitation by the Yoruba nation too, when Igboho submitted that stuff to the UK, okay? All of these things put together, Michael, it's heartbreaking. Is this the best way to go?
I mean, there's nothing wrong about agitation. You know, Constitution really gives room for, you know, people to voice out their concern, probably. But in a moment where you begin to take laws into your hands, in a moment where you get to carry out all some of these agitations unlawfully, you know, destructions of properties, I mean, it's very unlawful. Assassinations and killings and all of those murder cases we hear from the southeastern part of the country. And just still today, Monday, it's still a sit-at-home practice, even when the governors of the state have decried all of that. Economically, it has affected the Southeast because it looks that people are not productive on Monday. You know, no work, everybody is staying at home, fears of the unknown and all of that. Yes, we also hear the concern about, you know, release of Nnamdi Kanu, which is also major concern. The stakeholders, everyone have all continued to engage with the federal government to see how they can release Nnamdi Kanu. But it looks that it's not going to be a very, you know, soft landing engagement. We've seen a lot of interpretation from the courtroom that is not really palatable. But the people, just as you stated, the people of Saudi should understand that, I mean, the properties they destroyed is their own. You know, the lives they destroyed, it's also their brothers, you know, even when we also have other people residing in those cities. But it's not just the way to go. If we must get, if we must get agitations right, that procedures, I do want to always use that procedures other than, you know, unlawfully carrying out some disrupting the peace and stability of the nation. I think that's a major concern that they should be able to have into mind.
I think that's it. You've said it all. You've said it all. The people you're killing, assassinating are your brothers, and the properties you're destroying are your properties. So wisdom is profitable to the red. Agitate, but then let's do it lawfully. Let's get to the next point of call. Over to you, Michael.
Yeah, the next is the Daily Trust. On the front page of Daily Trust this morning, CNG, commercial drivers, orders tax government on infrastructure and refueling stations. Writer says decry high conversion cost. Petrol filling station should be made to install gas facilities. And that's on the front page of the Daily Trust. Again and again, Ramsey, issues of CNG is a major concern. Commercial drivers are saying that, you know, to convert is costly. And probably that gave room for people going to, you know,
cut corners.
To cut corners and all of that. So it's also a call for government. Yes, we are asking for conversion. We are asking people to convert. Can we make it look, you know, more affordable for Nigerians, because we can't go from fry pan again
and
to
get
fire.
into fire.
If you're saying
that's
that
going to
people are running to convert because they can't afford fuel, because naturally people that are rushing about conversion are people that probably can't buy fuel. You know, I've seen also people that probably can still afford the fuel, they're still driving their vehicles. So the commercial, the commercial drivers, you know, are saying it's costly for them, or their bosses, how do they call that, their bosses? You know, we cannot afford to convert them, you know. Let's get to make things work for them in a bit to,
Yes,
conversions
and that's
of,
true. Buses can
buses.
Danfo cannot be converted. Can it? I don't
It
think
looks
so.
like there's a projection for that.
Maybe. Well, it should be holistic, right? It should be holistic. The engineers, the technical team should be able to make it such that all vehicles can actually be converted. But then, I keep saying it, Nigerians are going through so much right now. If the CNG conversion is to ameliorate the suffering of the people that has come from the policy of subsidy removal, which has hiked the price of fuel product, the PMS, then it should be affordable, especially at the designated centers. If we must get rid of these explosions, if we value Nigerians, it should, I think there is a way government can make this thing available everywhere so that the competition will be such that people will make it affordable. Or else, if it is just one person that is doing it, it will not be affordable by Nigerians. But if it's not affordable by Nigerians, then the aim has been defeated already. So it should be affordable, especially by commuters. Especially the commercial drivers. They are the ones that need it more because they are the ones that interface directly with the average Nigerians that will need to move their products from one location to the other, and people who have services that will need to move from one office to the other.
Right, a whole couple of concerns. Well, subsequently on the program, we'll discuss more on the issues of CNG. But let's still get to the Daily Trust, what we have there. Police arrest. Release NSAS memorial protesters. On a very sad note, probably those that just went out yesterday, which was the 20th day of October, in a bid to commemorate the protests of 2020 NSAS protests in a way. But, probably there are informations within the disposals of the police for their arrest. But there are also a concern that if they're not found guilty, they should be released, because having to arrest people at having to arrest protesters is not just it's not giving us a democracy a good image, because within the confines of the law, there's always a room.
That's in a way trying to shut the people up.
So let's get to, if they accept they have, probably they did out of order, the police will always have the right to make some of these arrests. But if it has to do with, we're also protesting against that and trying to sympathize with the families, a reminder and all of that, we should always get to know that, not to really have to drag police, because every time they continue to, paint our police with a bad image, it's always making sense. But those that have a concern that these guys are not too bad. Yes, we understand that the few guys, the few bad acts probably gives a bad image to your police, but can they always get to do the right thing at the right time so that people, Nigerians, can also feel, that they are literally against Nigerians. So what are they doing? Is the order provisionally? If they had to, in a memorial kind of event, what happens to arresting, protesters again?
Michael, I think we can't take that away. The people, Nigerians, generally have a perception about this guy.
They say police is your friend.
But they say police is your friend, but then that is a word. That's a word on paper. What about the practice of it? How friendly are the police officers on the highway? The man in the office may not know what these guys are doing on the highway, how they interface with the people in the public, how they carry out arrests, how these arrests are being done, how people are being treated behind the counter. All these things translate into creating some form of enmity, because some bad eggs, like you said, have actually compromised a lot of things, and that has given this noble, agency that name. Because if you talk about the place, someone said something sometimes back, and I was shocked. He said, "Come on, even if it is your brother that is a please, if you want to eat with the person, use a long spoon." And I was like, hey, it is not to that extent. I think what the authorities should do is to make sure they fish out the bad eggs so that the Nigerian police force can be sanitized again. It's possible. It can be done.
All right, it's very possible to get things done. The image of a police should always be sanitized in order to get, some level of dignity and value to that name. Legal battle over electricity tariff hike, not over. As came from Man, still on the front page of Daily Trust. You can find that on page 22 of Daily Trust newspaper this morning. 11 killed in Anambra cult crash. Jigawa tanker explosions. Death toll hit 180. That's, from 130, 150. It looks that, even those that were rushed to the hospitals are probably not making it alive. Our hearts really still goes out to these family members right at Jigawa State. DSS replaces Tinubu's chief security officer. Taj Bank pays second dividends shareholders fund grows by around 60%. These are the few stories. Still on from the army, Labaja not dead, says the army, in respect to the fly rumor of the chief of army staff. That's the much our Daily Trust are having on the front page, but more details is embedded on the paper. You can always get to know more about that and still follow up the stories for you. Let's get to other papers, Ramsey.
All right, let's get to the next paper. Our next point of call this morning will be the New Telegraph. On the New Telegraph this morning, we have a lot of beautiful stories making round. And the first one is that of the Army Chief. I think it's so good that the military is coming up to debunk the news that's making round. Army headquarters debunks reports of Lagbaja's death. And the writer says DSS replaces Fasasi with Lawal as Tinubu's CSO. Details read on page 6 and 7 of the New Telegraph. Well, I think it's so good. Coming out to say, well, nothing happens to the army chief, nothing happened to him. Saying that is not enough. I think we should have access to a press briefing or something like that, a statement coming to debunk that. Maybe in every rumor, I don't know, maybe something happened. But it's so good that this is not true, because it's not going to speak well to an extent, even though we know that that is something that is inevitable. But it's so good that the army is coming out to debunk this. Any other details from there you will get to know as you follow it up from the media. Now to another story. Enugu government, please insist no stay at home. Assure citizens of safety. How safe will these people be? Just one writer to that story. As state, Vienna moved to strengthen bilateral cooperation. Details read on page 3 and 6 of the New Telegraph. Then another one says payment platforms. That's the kicker. Why we rejected IPPIS, GFMIS by ASU, insist strike notice stands. Okay, and details read on page 2, and Osidike's picture is right beside that headline. Then still more coming from the New Telegraph this morning. U.S. poll, that's the kicker. Musk to give away $1 million per day to Pennsylvania voters. Details read on page 6. We'll talk about this maybe much later. You know, so many things happening. Politics is something that a lot of people give so much attention. And it is a game, just that the way it's been played in different parts of the country differs. We're talking about the presidential race between Donald Trump and, of course, Harris right now, because Kamala is also on top of our game. Trump is also on top of his game. Remember, Biden stepping down for Kamala Harris has a reason, and they have a whole lot of backing. But now, Musk is supporting Donald Trump, and he's ready to go all the way. But as it is right now, let's see what will come out of it. It's an election. It's politics. anything is happened. If not until the last day, you won't know who is already winning. If you want to make any prediction right now, that prediction may not be very correct. And now to the big story on the New Telegraph this morning. Anti-corruption agencies to deploy tracking system. This is coming from a source, an undisclosed source. That's all about the local government financial autonomy. That's actually the kicker of the story. All right. Local government financial autonomy. Anti-corruption agencies to deploy tracking system. This is to ensure that the money being disbursed to the local government is being used judiciously, I beg your pardon, but as it is. When will the implementation take place? That's the big questions right now. The big question is, when is the implementation going to take place? The one writer to that story said, as federal government seeks grassroots development to reduce rural-urban migration, contain insecurity, create jobs and others. Details of that story you can get on page 2 of the New Telegraph. Michael, as it is right now, local government autonomy is one thing that a lot of people craved for. And now it has been given, but the implementation, I was telling someone a few days ago, I said maybe the reason why there is delay in this implementation is for the fact that some local government are still conducting their local government polls, like it happened in Kaduna over the weekend, it happened in Benue State, it happened in Rivers State, and of course, other states that have not actually had theirs may want to have it. And if it exceeds that limit, you won't be able to get this money from the federal level anymore. So it's part of the reason. But then the tracking system, tracking how this fund is being disbursed, how it is being utilized. Do you see it as a welcome development? Because if you look at the writer to that story, the writer said something very vital. They said the essence is for the federal government to seek grassroots development, that is to reduce rural-urban migration. Remember, one of the problems we have in the cities is accommodation problem. You know, housing deficit is as a result of people migrating from the rural areas to the urban centers. And why this migration? Because life is more favorable, the opportunities are more at the urban centers, and that's the reason people are migrating. But then housing deficit is the problem, major problem, then getting this job. So if it is made available at the local government level, then you see people leaving the urban areas to the local government because the place is developed, they have jobs, and of course there is security and other things. What do you think about this development coming from the federal government, because they are giving us the reason why they are putting up this tracking system?
You know, when we look at all of that, you know, just to start with the issues of autonomy, because it looks that from all indications, the local government elections we are having in the country, you know, is already, you know, the intentions are already defeated, because we can't get to have people manage the resources of the local government, and there are people that have, going through selection process, because experts have analyzed all of this election. You know, just yesterday I was having a review of Kaduna election. You know, it looks that it was an election, no ballot papers, no materials for elections. So it was just a mere selection by, you know, the state independent electoral commissions we have in different states. So it's not just you know, peculiar to any state. You know, it looks everyone were literally doing the same thing. Ruling party, you know, APC sweeping whole year. PDP sweeping whole year, you go to Anambra, Abga, sweeping, you go to Rivers State, APP sweeping also. It was just, you know,
but Michael, is that not questionable? When you come to, because is it possible for an election to be conducted in the state and one party sweep all the local government?
The reality is that what we are having was not an election, because we've monitored very closely. People were not voting, so it was more of, you know, they'll just get to flash up some point at some local government, some polling unit. At the end of the day, the returning officer declares whosoever wins. So that's what probably has been a practice. We've seen that. We've also seen a situation where they had announced a certain result on the other hand, and then they later came out with another statement announcing another. So there was just back and forth with this issue of local government election. But the problem is that we are bothered, because if the intentions of the Supreme Court and the government is that we must get our resources directly to the local government, so we should know the kind of caliber of people that, we are entrusting this thing to, so that at the end of the day, the intentions of getting development will not be, defeated. We can't get to have a selection process and expect that anything different will come from the local government autonomy.
The problem is
it has stake.
The gimmick. The politicians, I don't know how they do these manipulations. You remember, because the governors put in the caretaker chairman. That's why the federal government said it must be chairman duly elected that will benefit from this autonomy. Now, there is this manipulation of making a particular party win all the local government. This is some form of gimmick coming from the governors. Well, let's see what the federal government will do about it. But then, local government autonomy has come to stay. That's what I feel. Still coming from the New Telegraph, but the judge urges Kekere Ekum to end judicial rascality. And just two writers to that story says judiciary becoming offensive to Nigerians. Nigerians are losing confidence in the judicial system. So the judiciary have a whole lot of work to do. Then the second writer says prison congestion. That's the kicker. Lawyers push for retributive justice system to expedite conflict resolution. That's on pages 314 and 16. And finally, from the New Telegraph, I was 25% deaf without knowing it, says Obasanjo. What kind of deafness are we talking about here? You can get the details on page 4, 6, and 7, just to write us to that story, and I will be done. Stresses need for medical checks, task leaders on security and unity. States out of school syndrome provides recruitment avenue for Boko Haram. Well, that's going to be the size of the headlines from the New Telegraph this morning, as I hand you over to Michael.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of couple of reactions from the papers coming in this morning, but let's just swiftly get to the Nigerian Tribune. On the Nigerian Tribune, the big stories we have on the Nigerian Tribune newspaper this morning, as it has 16 months of decline. Critical market indicators defy FG. World Bank's reforms optimism. Riders, credibility of reforms in questions at Debajo. Exporters, multinational companies repatriating and export proceeds. Government not interested in citizens' welfare. Economist. The 16 month of decline. We're looking at we are looking at reforms. Tinubu is having a projection, and World Bank are also coming out with a statement that for all of these reforms to work, we need like 15 years.
10 to 15 years.
10 to 15 years projection. And are those having a concern about, are they having Nigerians at heart? Because just like this expert have really said, it looks that government does not have the interest of Nigerians, because with all of these, projection, reforms, I think it's for the life of Nigerians. And if the people that you are actually having these good, good reforms for are not surviving now, what happens, if they have to keep on enduring more? So it's questionable. Reforms of the president, yes, those that says we need that, it is for good, but at what cost would all of this continue to make impact on Nigerians?
Well, some Nigerians have said Nigeria Action 8. Action 8 Nigeria. They spoke extensively about that. We discussed that on Diplomatic Perspective, looking at the relationship between the World Bank and IMF. There is an interest coming from somewhere, as a matter of fact. But then, Michael, what do these people stand to gain? Action 8 took us back to the days when our textiles were working and these suggestions came in, and today our textiles are nowhere. People are jobless. So many things happening. People are hungry. And you're talking about sustaining a particular reform until 10 to 15 years' time. So what will happen to the generality of Nigerians? What will happen to the people? For how long do we continue like this? Or there are going to be some other policies that will make Nigeria, stay where they are? Well, over to you, Michael.
Yes, all couple, we can't really exhaust all of that. I will continue to track some of these reforms. We pray that I will get to materialize soon for the betterment of Nigerians. But let's get to all other headlines here on the Nigerian Tribune. Local government financial autonomy. Eyes on federal government to enforce Supreme Court judgment. And that's on page 22. Implementation of Supreme Court judgment. People are looking at local government, state are still looking at the federal government. We've seen the dramas coming from Anambra State, where the governor have quickly had to amend the local government laws in the state in a way of having a joint account. I mean, there are a lot of concern about that. And how would this work if the intention of the federal government is to have the financial independence of the local government areas in the state? Close rank to win Ondo governorship election. Ganduje charges the aggrieved aspirants. And the Southwest APC stakeholders converge on Ondo State. Out of the Ondo elections, a whole lot of concern about the APC, and that's coming from the chairman of APC, Ganduje, advice to the aspirants of All Progressive Congress. And now FG's delayed disbursement of $314 million food production in facilities affected food security. Writer says, as food imports bill hits 5-year high of 1.5 trillion naira in first quarter of 2024 and 7.8 trillion naira spent in 6 years. And now to PDP affairs, pressure mounts on Damagun to allow scheduled NEC meeting. Writer says constitutional breach must be avoided. NWC member. And that's on page 22. And very lastly, I am with Oyabanji, PDP can take their party. I am with Oyabanji, PDP can take their party. And that's coming from former governor of Fayose. Well, we'll continue to make these discussions as very quickly we'll have to catch up with M News. And once we return from the M News, we'll finalize on that interactions, and we'll also have an expert joins us virtually this morning to get the conversation on all that top headlines we have in the paper this morning. Please stay with us.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofrebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Get in on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
Global Television, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I am Edikan Michael. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free to air on Nicomsat. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria says the legal battle against the implementation of electricity tariff review is not yet over. This followed the decision of the Federal High Court in Lagos, which quashed a suit filed by the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria contesting the Ban A electricity tariff review implemented by the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company and 11 other entities. The ruling found that association's suit constituted an abuse of court processes, labeling it premature and lacking adherence to the Section 51 of the Electricity Act 2023. The court concluded that association had not exhausted the necessary dispute resolution mechanism before filing the suit. The national chairman of All Progressive Congress, Abdullahi Ganduje, has thrown his weight behind Ondo State Governor and of governorship candidate of the party in the state's November 16 gubernatorial poll. At the APC Southwest Governors Forum meeting in Akure, the chairman urged all political leaders of the state to work in unity. Our correspondent Kikolobo Kere has the report from Akure.
Gathered in this hall are political leaders from Ogun, Ekiti, Ondo, and Lagos State. The national chairman of Progressive Congress, Abdullahi Ganduje, says the meeting is to motivate the Ondo State governor and the governorship aspirant, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, in solidarity of the party. He urged the political leaders to ensure all hands are on desk to ensure free and fair election in the state.
Is to give you assurance that the party is solidly and 100% behind you.
Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and Ekiti State Governor Abiodun Oyebanji appreciate all political leaders for throwing their weight behind the Ondo State governorship aspirant while appealing for unity in the party.
Well, I mean, so we're here, right, to ensure that we can have a full house assessment, of where we are politically, and we've seen that everybody, all stakeholders, were in attendance. But to also answer your question, assessment, Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa, in our view, because we also do peer review amongst ourselves, we know he's one of our most forward-looking governors.
Number two, we also have a duty to ensure that the achievement of Arakunrin Akeredolu is not reversed.
Ondo State Governor and the governorship aspirant, Lucky Aiyedatiwa, thanked the political leaders for supporting him while pledging that he will not disappoint them.
And I want to start by thanking the national chairman of our party for taking time out to be here. The chairman of Nigeria Governors Forum Southwest, His Excellency Babajide Sanwo-Olu, we've scheduled this meeting at different times but could not hold. But this is the time, this is the day that the Lord has made for the meeting to hold. I want to thank you very much for your support at all times. All of you that has come from Lagos, all our leaders, starting from Baba Olusi and all the other leaders, the party chairman, everyone, I thank you very much.
It is the first election in the Southwest after the presidential election. It is expected that the political leaders will adopt and put into use all that have been discussed at the All Progressive Southwest Governors Forum's meeting. From Akure, Ondo State Capital, Kikelomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Global TV will bring to you more updates as Ondo prepares for the off-cycle elections. And our President Bola Tinubu stacks Vice President Shettima with leading Nigeria's delegation to the 2024 Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting set to take place in Apia in Samoa. The directive was announced by Stanley Ngwocha, the Senior Special Assistant to the President at Media and Communications, in a statement on Sunday. The meeting scheduled from October 21st to 26th will bring together leaders from 56 member countries, including King Charles of England. This year's summit will focus on the theme, One Resilient Common Future, transforming a Commonwealth, and discussions will center on building resilience, unlocking potentials, and fostering a digitally connected Commonwealth. Vice President Shettima will join other global leaders in addressing critical issues such as the global economy, environmental sustainability, and security challenges. At our Amnesty International Nigeria says it has continued to receive reports of human rights abuse, including alleged unlawful detention, extortion, and torture and sexual violence by the Nigerian police 4 years after the October 2020 NSAS protests. The nationwide NSAS protests were held between October 1st, 2020 and 2020 to demand an end to police brutality, particularly by the now-defunct Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigerian police. The protests, however, came to an abrupt end on the 20th of October 2020, following the loss of lives under controversial circumstances at the Lekki tollgate in Lagos after an alleged shootout by officers of the Nigerian military. The human rights hate groups called on the Nigerian government to address human rights violations by the police, which they noted continue to embolden impunity and leave Nigerians vulnerable to some violations that triggered the NSAS protests 4 years ago. The Standards Organization of Nigerians has alerted members of the public to desist from patronizing uncertified compressed natural gas, also called CNG, centers in order to safeguard their lives and properties. The agency's Director General, Dr. Ifeanyi Okeke, in a statement on behalf of Fellowship Balaji, says the public warning became inevitable following the recent explosion at the NIPSCO's CNG refueling station in Benin City, Edo State. Dr. Keke commiserated with those affected by the incident, stating that the agency will not tolerate any attempt to circumvent the laid out standards, guidelines, and procedures for the CNG Convention initiative. About the power sector, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission says discussions are ongoing to transfer the management of the national grid to independent system operator in line with the provisions of Electricity Act 2023 to engender more discipline in grid management. The commission also stated that an explosion incident at the Jeba transmission station was the cause of the latest national grid collapse that occurred earlier Saturday. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission noted that efforts to restore supply have progressed significantly, with power restored in 33 states and the federal government. And Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has joined family, friends, and well-wishers to celebrate former head of state Yakubu Gowon, retired at 90. The First Lady says General Gowon's life of simplicity, humility, grace, dignity, and patriotism to the nation offers hope on the future of the country. The wife of the president spoke at a special Thanksgiving service to mark the 90th birthday of the former head of state at the National Christian Center, Abuja, where dignitaries including the former president Olusegun Obasanjo, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, and former vice president Yemi Osinbajo, among others, converged to honor the elder statesman. Recounting the virtues General Gowon stands for, the First Lady explained she was 6 years old when he took the reign of power, also highlighted his simplicity and patriotism. The Minister of State for Water Resources and Sanitation, Bello Ogario, has reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to strengthening the water users' institution in public irrigation schemes as a critical steps towards achieving food security and economic growth. This was disclosed in a press statement signed by the Director of Information and Public Relations, Ministry of Water Resources and Sanitation, Fumi Amotiyan, of the South-South Regional Workshop on the establishment and strengthening of water resources and sanitation and public irrigation schemes in Nigeria, in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. The Kebbi State government has set up a committee to recover the money stolen from the orphan account. The sum of 2.1 billion naira had disbursed to 1,849 orphans in the state by the World Muslim League through the bank transfer to cater for their education and upkeep. While briefing journalists in Benin Kebbi, the Commissioner for Religious Affairs, Elijah Mohammed Sani, says some guidance entrusted with the money engaged in fraudulent withdrawal. He says Governor Nasir Idris has directed the immediate recovery of the money in full and that it should be returned to the orphans. President Bola Tinubu has extended warm congratulations to the Oba of Benin, Owari II, as he marks his 71st birthday on October 20, which commemorated the 8th anniversary of his ascension to the throne of his ancestors. In a statement released by the Special Advisor to the President, Bayo Onanuga, Tinubu lauded the reign of the 40th Oba of Benin, noting that since his coronation in 2016, Oba of Benin II has ushered the Owari II, ushered a new era of peace, understanding, civility among the people of Benin Kingdom. The president highlighted the monarch's distinguished career in diplomacy, which has influenced his leadership. And our Sokoto State Police Command has cracked down on a kidnapping syndicate, arresting the prime suspect, 18-year-old Aba Aliyu, who is a neighbor to the complaint from the Badon Ania area of Sokoto State. A statement by the spokesman of the command, ASP Hamid Rifai, says on October 16, 2024, at about 12 p.m., Ibrahim Shehu reported to the anti-kidnapping unit attached to the Criminal Investigation Department, Sokoto, that his son, Sadi Ibrahim, 2 years old, had gone missing since October 13, 2024. The Commissioner of Police, Ahmed Musa, reiterated the command's commitment to combating crime and praised the personal effort in ensuring the successful arrest of the suspect. The Nigerian Immigration Service says it has deployed advanced e-border solutions to over 80 crossing points across the country in its ongoing effort to enhance the border security and curb trans-border crimes. The Comptroller General of the Service, Kemi Nadab, disclosed this during a visit to its heads of office in Abeokuta, Ogun State. Nadab noted that the deployment marked the first phase of the e-border project, a critical step in modernizing the border surveillance and control in Nigeria. You're watching the AM News coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. When AM News returns, custom auction of seized petrol to Nigerians at subsidized rate. The details of these and more after the short break. Please stay with us. Watching the AM News, many thanks for staying with us. And on to business. The federal government has introduced a new bill seeking to exempt a range of essential products and services from value-added tax as part of its efforts to ease the financial burden on citizens. The bill, titled A Bill for an Act to Repeal a Certain Act of Taxation and Consolidate the Legal Frameworks Relating to Taxation, and enacts the Nigerian Tax Act to provide for taxation of income, transactions and instruments and related matters, is ready for public discourse. The VAT exemption list includes the baby products and locally manufactured sanitary towels parts. And away from that, the Nigerian Customs Service has disclosed it is selling seized petrol from smugglers in the northern part of the country at a subsidized rate. In a statement signed by the acting Public Relations Officer, Katsina Command Assistant Superintendent of Customs, Issa Bello, the service noted that under its operation within, it had seized up to 12,000 liters of PMS across the Katsina, Kano, and Jigawa axes, which were being smuggled to neighboring countries. The Comptroller Coordinator of the operations disclosed that the Comptroller General of Customs, Adewale Adeniyi, approved the auction of seized petrol to citizens at a subsidized rate as the strategic measures to alleviate the nation's economic challenges. It further urged Nigerians, particularly those living in border areas, to support the operation by staying vigilant and collaborating with customs officers in the fight against fuel smuggling and other illicit activities. The federal government says it is discussing with the World Bank the possibility of securing a $500 million loan to support basic education. The $500 million loan is part of the World Bank's Hope for Quality Basic Education for All initiative, which helps to improve the learning outcomes and address the challenges of out-of-school children. Expected to receive formal approval by March 2025, the project is a key component of Nigeria's effort to reform its struggling education sector. Now, the federal government has declared that electricity distribution companies must replace any meter fares out due as a meter upgrade. It declared this through the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission and clarified that Though there is no directive to phase out the OnStar meters as claimed, they will soon be out of operation due to an upgrade in technology and the users will not be able to vend. The Commission noted that any meter currently being replaced by Discos must be substituted to ensure no disruption to customers' metering needs. The federal government's plans to reduce the price of food commodities through the implementation of 0% duty and exemption from value-added tax on selected basic food items are increasingly becoming difficult to achieve. The challenge is underscored by the alarming increase in the average price of imported food items, which rose to 838.3 price point index in September 2024, reflecting the broader economic pressures. On July 8, 2024, the federal government announced a 150-day duty-free import window for food commodities to ensure a reduction in food inflation in Nigeria. The federal government has approved the disbursement of 12.911 billion naira to some parastatals under the Federal Ministry of Health. The parastatals are the National Health Insurance Authority, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, at the National Emergency Medical Service and Ambulance System. The amount was approved at the 8th meeting of the Ministerial Oversight Committee of the Basic Health Care Provision Fund in Abuja. The committee said that the fund was disbursed for the fourth quarter of 2024 based on the current guidelines. And on the foreign scene, Senegalese Prime Minister Sonko is calling on voters to give his Pastef party an overwhelming majority in the West African nation's November 17 legislative election to realize he and the president's plans to transform the state. The Prime Minister told supporters at a pre-election rally in the capital of Dakar that President Faye needs the electoral victory if he is to implement his policies. Our search and rescue mission has been launched after a multi-story building collapse in Kawa West area in Nairobi. Our police said they are not certain if there were people trapped under the rubble after the incident. Locals have detected the weakness in the building and had mobilized residents to evacuate. They even took videos of the 7-story tumbling. Our CEO Elon Musk rallies solo for former U.S. President and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump, urging people to vote in a town hall in Harrisburg in a key swing state of Pennsylvania.
A lot of it is I think, convincing people who sometimes feel like the vote doesn't matter or it's all rigged or whatever, that actually the vote does matter. And if there's any election in their lifetime that they're going to vote, they should vote in this one.
Elon Musk has emerged as a loud voice in U.S. politics since taking over X, formerly known as Twitter. And about 100 foreign scene beaches in the Australian city of Sydney have reopened for swimmers after being closed earlier this week when thousands of mysterious backdoor-like balls washed ashore and prompting health concerns. Officials says tests found the balls to be formed from chemicals similar to those in cosmetics and cleaning products, but it's still unclear where they came from. The 8 beaches, including the one that the city's most famous, were closed, and a massive cleanup order amid the fears the black deposits were toxic. Cuba is experiencing a nationwide blackout after its main energy plant failed, knocking out power to its 10 million people. Its power grid collapsed on Friday, the Energy Ministry announced on social media. The official says they did not know how long it would take to restore power. The island had suffered months of lengthy blackouts, prompting the Prime Minister to declare an energy emergency. And out to sports, Nigeria's made a bold statement at the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in the Dominican Republic with a 4-0 thrashing of Ecuador in the second Group A match on Saturday night at Estadio. The Bancolo's side dominated their South American opponent from start to finish, securing a decisive result that has propelled them to the tournament's quarterfinals. The first team to do so, having secured 6 points from 2 matches, scored the brace, opening the scoring in the 28th minute from the penalty spot, rounding off the match with a goal 6 minutes into the added time. Now the package on air news coming to you live from Nigeria's capital. We're on DSTV, channel 365, and free to air on Nicomsat. My name is Edikat Michael. We'll return back to the Global Morning very shortly. Stay with us.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
Many thanks for staying with us. This is Global Morning. Now let's get to have our interactions ahead of the CNG convention centers, where government have also won, the Standard Organization of Nigeria have also won that we should be careful on the centers. We have to convert our vehicles because of the recent events in Edo State. Being joined this morning by Professor Lawal. He's from Geographic Information Science, Department of Geography and Environmental Management at University of Port Harcourt. Good morning, Prof. Thanks so much for sparing your very early morning hours with us on the program. Very quickly, your concern about CNG. It looks that we can't rely more on fuel. So it's a welcome development, a fantastic initiative for us to see how we can, also have an alternative away from fuel. But it looks that what just happened has also drawn us backward in a way about discouraging some Nigerians. It might also be an information and an event that is not really as expected at a time like this. What is your concern about that? And do you feel that much infrastructure should be put in place to manage all of this?
Good morning once again. I want to use this opportunity to at least let us understand that something like this is not something, it's not that it cannot happen, but it's something that is rare. And this also brings to our consciousness that safety should be something we should take seriously. There are designated places where you can convert your vehicle, but being human as we are, if things are too expensive, we always look for alternative, a cheaper way of doing it. So this could be, I don't know the outcome of the investigation. I think until when the investigation is complete, we'll know what actually caused the event that we witnessed around Edo State in recent time. But in the meantime, I think the media and the different agencies involved in this, they also need to let people understand that the risk is lower of this kind of event, and the probability of it even happening is lower. But because of our confirmation bias, people are already afraid of anything gas. Whenever there's the name gas in it, people are afraid of it. We have to understand that LPG, the one we use to cook in the house, is different from CNG, compressed natural gas, which we use, which is now being used. We are being encouraged to come back. So the risk for the two of them, LPG is much even of a higher risk than the CNG. CNG is under a lot of pressure, so immediately it comes into the air, it disperses, it's lighter. But LPG is heavier than the air. When it's leaking, it stays close to the ground. It doesn't disperse. So we have to understand this, and I think there is need for more sensitization, for more public education to make people understand this. There's really, I'm not saying there are no risks, but we do not have to get unnecessarily alarmed about this kind of incident.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. One thing that a lot of people believe right now is the fact that this is coming as a substitute for petrol, which is very, very expensive right now. Do you see this, being able to serve as a substitute for petroleum product in the country, taking into cognizance the designation points where these CNG conversions will be done and how to even get the gas itself?
Definitely, it's a substitute, but it's not the final solution. Remember, one of the things in order to solve some of the problem we have in terms of climate change is that we have to think across different spheres of solution. This is one of the ways, but it's not the final solution. But I can understand that owing to the fact that PMS is very expensive now, CNG offers a very, very attractive alternative because it's cheaper, but the cost of entry, the cost of conversion is still something that a lot of people will have to take into consideration before taking that leap of faith. And then, as you have rightly said, the network of the filling stations of the gas refill station is still CNG station is still not widespread enough to generate that massive adoption. But it is a step in the right direction, but it's not the final solution. One of the things is that when people are so used to a certain technology, it takes time for them to migrate to another one. But I think one of the other solution would be to also start thinking around electric vehicles, because they offer a much attractive alternative, but there has to be the consideration of that cost of entry for each one of these technology. But as we can see in other countries, in China, in Australia, in many parts of Europe, the adoption of electric vehicle is picking up. But definitely Nigerians will ask you, if I don't have electricity to run my house, why are you talking of electric vehicle? But what I'm suggesting is that there are other options. CNG is one of them, but it's not the final solution.
All right, Prof. Let's get to the safety, because those are probably may have a concern. Should all vehicles convert? We probably do not know if the Danfo, the individuals' vehicles, and all of those are just feeling that it's cheaper. So let me just get to convert. Is that a situation from what we have, or is there a specification from your viewpoint, understanding that from all indications, it looks that some vehicles probably may not be compatible with some of these kits?
You have hit the nail on the head. I'm sure that there are about 133 conversion stations, according to the agency, the PICNG, across the country, different states. From their website, one can get all these the accredited stations. But I'm very sure that once you bring your vehicle down there, a proper assessment will be done to know whether this kind of vehicle, because of the safety, because of the risk involved, is it adequate for conversion. So I'm sure the engineers will do the needful to make sure that that's the case, because one of the things we have to put in consideration is that this sort of conversion, if you have a brand new car that you bought with warranty, immediately you do this conversion, your warranty is void and things like that, because it's a major conversion. It's a major work on your vehicle. So, but some kind of vehicle, depending on the structure, the age and things like that, I'm sure the engineers will have to vet the vehicle before such installation will be made. So I will not say it will be wrong for me to say every vehicle, because I'm sure the condition of the vehicle would have to be taken into consideration before the installation or the conversion is carried out.
Yeah, a much concern, Prof, when you look at the fact that converting some of these vehicles is posing a whole lot of challenges. We now have some drivers are really saying, can we have filling stations, also have centers in the bid? Because it looks that it will have independent people, because we cannot really say that we are manufacturing. This is homegrown, manufacturing kits. How do we have these localized so that people will not just take advantage of different centers? Because now we are having everybody just want a job. It might look that it's another business for Nigerians, because, come on, you know how Nigerians are always open for businesses. We are bothered about that. Should we rather say, our filling stations should also have some of these centers, so as to have, because already they have the licenses to practice, and if they can be able to have some of these places in a local communities, it probably might also safeguard those taking advantage of the situation.
Yes, I think this is where the regulatory agency, the downstream, the agency in charge of that, NUPRDC or something like that, they would have to take that into consideration. And I think there is, you are right that if this thing is a little bit closer to us, it might aid the adoption. But the challenge also is that the conversion kit, the cost of it training the right manpower. I know the presidential initiative on this CNG, they have set a target. They have trained about over 1,000 or so people who can actually get this done. But we're still we have a long way to go to train enough manpower and then to have the right facility to make this kind of kits locally. Because I remember growing up, I know the Nigeria Gas, there's a cylinder making company in Ibadan at that time when I was young. And I don't think that facility is still operating. They make LPG gas cylinders. But the CNG is under a higher level of pressure. So we need to develop the capacity to be able to make this kind of cylinders and all the other accessories to make the conversion happen. I'm sure it's part of what the initiative is working on, because it would not be wise for us to just only be importing these devices and these accessories, because which means whenever the price of dollar goes up, then we are at the mercy of the dollar again. So I think this will be also one of the things to try and get it localized so that we can. Then I will be very, very careful in trying to get every Tom, Dick, and Harry, every filling station to be doing this, to be selling this CNG. Because if the proper monitoring is not there, then any accident again is going to set back this initiative significantly. So this is where the monitoring and the inspection and the regulatory agency will have to be up. They have to up their game in trying to make sure that any place that is operating this, they have to put their ear to the ground and know where people are operating illegally and how are the agencies or how are the stations they have approved, how are they working to ensure that safety is utmost, is taken seriously, because any accident again, it's not going to be good to have this kind of thing again. It will change the mind of people significantly. One is more than enough. We have to really up the game in making sure that this never happens again. Mistakes are natural, it's something that occurs, but there is always something we can do to minimize such occurrence.
Okay, Prof, I would like to ask, you talked about orientation. The people need to get the proper orientation. Looking at the situation of the country right now, because some persons believe, well, they ordinarily wouldn't want to cut corners, but then you see people cutting corners in the country today because they prefer, there are some Nigerians, not everyone, some persons prefer to get the quantity than the quality. Looking at, taking instance from the fuel tank, all right, that caught fire and the number of people that died. This is something that the federal government have been warning, individuals have been warning, and people still involved in these activities that resulted to lives being lost. The same thing, let's just relate it to the issue of CNG now, as it is. The explosion in Edo State, we were made to understand that it was not properly done, and that is cutting corners. How much orientation do you think the people need without the government ameliorating the suffering of the people that will make them adhere? What do you think should be done apart from just the orientation?
This is a very good question, and it's a complex one to answer. I'm saying it's a complex one to answer is because whenever you are dealing with human beings would do a lot of things that you may not even anticipate. We always think we are rational, but most of the time we behave very irrationally. It's what makes us human. I think the National Orientation Agency, the regulatory agencies, the civil society, you in the media, you will have to help sincerely to help people, to educate people, to let them know that this is not something that you play with, okay? safety, and you have rightly said, even right now, people do a whole lot of things, cutting corners, and it's correct. People will cut corners when the price is too high. Even at times when the price is not too high, people will cut corners. Because it's just human beings. We behave irrationally, and whenever we think we can make a little gain more than what is necessary, people will always want to do it. So we have to get to that point that we continuously let people understand that we cannot stop. Because you do adverts today and you have done it yesterday, you have done it for 2 weeks, it means it's enough. No, it's something that has to be etched into the consciousness of the people, that we have to make a change to CNG. If you want to do it in the right place. Think of your loved ones. Think of the other people who may be affected if you do it in the wrong place. And then the other segment of this is beyond just educating the people. The regulatory agencies will have to work with the police and the other security agencies so that they know when people are patronizing illegal conversion centers, so that you nip in the bud. People are always going to look for a way to save one or two, save some money. But it's either you put a policy, you put things in place to reduce the cost so that more people want to do it, so as to discourage them from going to where the illegal ones that will be cheaper will be available, or you have to do it. It has to be a multi-pronged approach. You educate, you find a way to reduce the cost. I'm sure by the time we're making the kits locally, the cost of conversion should naturally go down. And then you also have to put your ears to the ground to know where illegal stuff are taking place. So many different approaches will have to be taking place simultaneously. Educating the people, find a way to reduce the cost, and then always monitoring to know where things have been done illegally.
A very big thanks to Professor Lawal from Geographic Information Science and Model Department of Geography and Environmental Management, University of Port Harcourt. Thanks so much for joining the morning show with us at Global Morning. Thanks so much, Prof.
A pleasure.
All right, of course, we're just listening to Prof. When you look at the issues of CNG, but a lot of persons are yet to know what it takes, the procedures, the regulatory concern on how this can go. We always have this conversation and continue to make the enlightenment that is utmost needed at a time like this. That's where, of course, we'll wrap it up with Prof. And, of course, we'll go on a break, and a quick one. I was returned from the break of the conversation on all the big stories. Continue to stay with us.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofrebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
A lot of things, inconsistencies in the economy, and Nigerians will not stop complaining of the hardship, which is a bold handwriting on the wall that you don't need any magician to tell you that Nigerians are going through so much. But now, one of the things that came after the policy from the government is the fact that import duty for food items will be zero. But then, some people will tell you a lot of policies coming on, but then the implementation always is a problem. Now, on one of the papers today, I saw this headline and I was wondering, I was speaking with Michael behind closed doors. I was like, come on, Michael, what if we have people that will follow every statement by the government to the latter so that there will be implementations? Because let me tell you the truth, if you give someone an assignment, if you make a statement or policy, give instructions, and there are no people to follow it up for implementation, no one is being told or meant to understand that he or she will be held accountable if these things are not done or carried out to the latter. Then you see people doing these things the way it is. But now, Nigerians were smiling, feeling, okay, the border is going to be open probably, food stuff items will be coming in, things like grain and the likes. But then, several months after, we're getting to know this morning that federal government's zero duty food import policy faces fresh hurdles. What are these hurdles? It will interest you to know that cautions or customs agents hint at confusion among implementation agencies. Confusion. When I don't know. If you give an instruction, it's beyond giving an instruction. That's what it means. Anyone can come up any day to say, okay, this is it, this is it, this is it. But then the implementation, let's have a roadmap. What is the next way forward? What are the action points? Until these things have been on, even the customs are even confused on the implementation, and not just the customs alone, other agencies too. This is where the problem is coming from. When you say zero import duty on food items, and what are the food items? How is this thing going to be done? Who are the stakeholders involved, the stakeholders that will come round the table and put one or two together to ensure the implementation of this statement? And of course, the inflation that we have right now, the exchange rate defeat policy objective. That's what analysts are saying, Michael. Because with the inflation, there are some things that you can't even do. People's hands are tied. Looking at the inflation, all right, looking at the exchange rate, right? A lot of people cannot bring in the food item. It's even a problem in the first place.
You're even going far. I mean, oftentimes, Nigeria Bureau of Statistics will come out with some level of statistics. It looks at we have crashed inflation. It looks at we are growing economically and all of that. The projection that we have is not. The projections of what we have is not really what Nigerians are looking at.
Not at all.
They're looking at projections where it's really meeting with the reality on ground, because we can't keep on having the conversation about, oh, we are getting better economically. But, when you go back, when you come to reality, it's not really the situation. So the reforms, yes, we need the reforms. We need the economic reforms and those some of these policies. But can we have a short term? Can we have people survive first before we can get to that better days? That's the question many Nigerians are asking. So because when I was speaking with an economic expert, he said, look, you can't have a plan like that. So what economists, a development expert does is that the person has a short term. He has, something that is durable, 5 years plan and all of that. So can we begin to see what is a short-term plan, for some of these reforms? We've seen all of that projection by central bank. We've seen all of those assuring words from economics and government, economic teams and all of that. Nigerians are probably tired of all of those statistics. I tell you, no statistics makes meaning again now. Most often times, even once we read in the papers, are not even making sense to Nigerians. So they just want to see things begin to work. They go to the market and they can be able to afford what they buy. They get to, transportation systems is, much infrastructure is being injected into that area so as to be able to alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians. These are where, things can begin to work, because we can't continue with all of that statistics and projections that is not getting anywhere better. But there should be a way out of all of this.
But sometimes you even get confused. You'll be forced to ask questions. How do they come up with these instructions, with these policies? When you say zero import duty on food items, certain food items, who were the stakeholders that sat down to say, okay, this is how this will be done, and this is how this will ameliorate the suffering of the people? You don't just, the federal government cannot just come up and say, okay, import. Now the custom is confused. Not just customs, some other agencies. And with this confusion, they don't even know where to get started from. And that's compounding the problem of the people. This is what Nigerians are saying. In a sane country, in a country where everything is working, in a country where the lives and the living of the people is important, what needs to be done is, number one, what do we do to make sure the average Nigerian is able to earn a living, whether you like it or not? The daily activities of entrepreneurs, the daily activity of the people in the workforce, the working class, contributes to the economic growth of every nation. If we want to talk about nation building, these people need to be very comfortable before they can contribute to nation building. These hurdles are things that can actually be done away with. Not just the food alone. The promises that the federal government is making, what are they doing about it?
Well, the president is back to the country, so
Daddy is back home.
A lot of concern about how all of these economic things will begin to be solved, because This is just about 16 months, more, I mean, if not more than that, where we've had the man on the ship, steering the ship, and of course, oftentimes has been assuring us, I asked for the job, do not pity me, I'll get the job done. So we're not doubting the capacity of the president to get the work done. About what many Nigerians will continue to ask. I mean, they're not asking of too much, you know, not just like Oliver Twist. They're not asking of too much. They're just asking where things can get better, economic situation can get working, you know, liter of fuel can be considered, and if it cannot be considered, we have an alternative where, you know, market food inflations can be crushed, where we can have surplus food to eat. You know, we just celebrated World Food Day the other day. I was asking, you know, how it's now that we know the importance of food. You know, prior to this time, people used to, you know, the culture of wasting food. You know, nowadays you can even get, you can't find, you know, some food on the street again compared to before. We used to see some food abandoned. You know, wastage of food. People eat and they never get to remain. You know, all of that culture. Well, it's also in the other side. Flip side of it is that people are also economical, because it was also a bad culture. Now people are being, you know, managing, sitting tight. People are now tricking.
So are you trying to say? Are you trying to say?
Yeah, I said on the flip side,
is making Nigerians wise.
On the flip side, people are doing what naturally.
So Nigerians are wiser. Is that what you're trying to say?
They are trying to expose us. The hardship have tried to expose us to the
other side. It has made people have sense.
Absolutely,
to an extent.
absolutely. But then the duration of it. Let it not be too long. Let it, you know, when you know that break time you have in school, you know, you just have a short break. So, you realize, fantastic. But let's go back to the normal. You know, we can't continue to rely more on the hardship. But we are very sure that
it is even when you have the food that you can even talk about the remnants. Because when the food is available, you eat and you have enough. When you don't even have the one to eat instantly, how would you even talk about preserving?
The reason I'm saying that, the Minister of Power said, Nigerians are wasting power. Of your fridge, of your socket, of your light.
Now there is nothing to put inside the fridge anymore.
You know, we have to manage, you know. So in a way that in other climes, in other countries, people manage all of that. I wouldn't have doubted the minister, but it has also exposed Nigerians to the other side of life. You know, we have to do this. But what we are more concerned is that we can't do this for too much. You know, let things begin to work. You know, away from all of these grammars, semantics, and statistics. All this interpretation of figures that we have from quoted by CBN, quoted by this and that just want to get things work. But in another convention on the program this morning, there are concern. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo has raised concern that the 20 million out of school children is a threat to our security, to our national security.
Do you need to be told? You don't know one needs to be told, because an idle hand is the workshop of the devil. Sorry, I need to go that way, because principles, okay, examples communicate principles. And of course, when you discover that these children are out of school, somebody else would want to engage them. And these are people, remember how Boko Haram started. Boko Haram is, I think, that education, Western education is a crime. That is conscientizing people to get them into some form of crime. Imagine someone is on the street roaming. Probably they don't even have food to eat. That is one. Then somebody comes to you, give the children food, then tell them one or two things. See, school is a scam, like some people were saying it the other time. Because I heard it from someone and I was like, school is not a crime. School is not a scam. But whoever tells you school is a crime, that person has an ulterior motive and the person is up to something. So these are some of the little leakages that these people take advantage of to recruit people into some crime, heinous crimes, you know, like kidnapping, you know, like robbery, cyber crime, and all of that. And now, come to talk about it. A lot of people are dropping out of school for obvious reasons. We all know the reason why a lot of people are dropping out of school. Our parents cannot pay school fees anymore. And some persons even believe that there is shortcuts to making money, because some persons believe that the reason why they go to school, why people go to school, is just to earn a living. And they believe that, well, we can cut the road, just a shortcut, do something, and of course, get ourselves rich. But then, let me tell you something about school. When we talk about school, it is not just the four walls of a building that it is the school. Because it is possible for someone to go through school and the school doesn't go through the person. The most important thing is, what are these people being taught in school? How many of them long for school? How many of them want to go to school? And as a matter of fact, let me tell you, we're made to understand that when the school feeding program stopped in the northern part of the country, some persons stopped going to school. Some of the pupils were not going to school anymore because one thing that was making them go to school is that, well, there is no food at home. They go to school and they are able to get maybe 1 square meal that we don't even know how delicious it is. We don't know how nutritious it is. But then that was bringing them to school. How much more? Now, the feeding program is not there. The school fees is not even there. The teachers are not even properly trained in some schools. All this culminates into what we have today as insecurity, because these persons, after being conscientized, they are taken out of the street and they are being directed somewhere where they will be taught how to carry out crime. And this increased the number of, like the former president was mentioning, Boko Haram. You know,
potential recruit.
Potential recruit. They are potential recruit. It is a cry. This is someone that is concerned about the aftermath of some of these policies, some of this hardship. What will become of it at the end of the day? What will become of our youth? We're talking about out of school children. We're not just talking about people in the primary school. We're also talking about people in the tertiary institution. Because, in fact, because of the hardship, tuition fees have also been hiked. Because so many things have contributed, the economy is not favorable anymore, and people are even dropping out of this tertiary institution. Some people are doing the unthinkable to get their tuition fees so they can get back to school. Imagine somebody in 300 level, somebody in 400 level getting out of school. What would that translate into? Insecurity, of course. So the former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria coming up to say a thing like this is not out of place totally. So what should happen now is get back to the drawing board. The federal government is trying. Parents are trying. But then more needs to be done. How will that be done? Ameliorating the suffering of the people, conscientizing the people, getting them to know the importance of education, wiping it from their memory that education is not a scam. School is not a scam. Because by the time these people come and put a different thing in them, tomorrow it becomes a problem for the country. So instead of doing a damage control later on, this can actually be curtailed right now. And I know the federal government can do that.
Well, the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, is arguing and insisting on community policing. For him, neighbors must know their neighbors so as to get to know some of this information, and of course, tackle the issues of out-of-school children, which is his major concern that he also raised recently, that these are potential Boko Harams, these are potential bandits if it's not well managed as of the time. So we do not want that statistics to go into some of these banditries, combating effort that, our armies have been battling on for some time now. We want a situation where some of this insecurity can be crashed down. So let's pay attention back to our educational sector. What are the states doing with their allocations? The questions, what are the local government, now that we have autonomy, what would they be doing? So can we begin to tackle and declare state of emergency on education? Because the statistics of out-of-school children is alarming, it's worrisome, and is a concern for each and every one of us. Because if we do not get those kids today back to school, they will become a threat tomorrow, just as Ramsey highlighted. Well, an expert will be joining us on the program this morning very shortly to discuss these and more effect on how we can get our educational sector working and get back those kids back to classroom. Do stay with us on the program. We'll be right back.
Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business. Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofwebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions. Tune in every weekdays from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. I am Queen Agaba.
For insightful breakfast ideas, business summaries, sports highlights, international and local news perspective, I am Anthony Momodu.
Don't miss the in-depth analysis of current and political issues by the Global Morning team and experts. I am Jumai Manson.
Catch Global Morning here on Global Television. Getting on the action. I am Edikan Michael.
We are
the Global Morning team.
Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bands, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
Well, just as the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, have raised concern over the 20 million out-of-school children, the statistics says is worrisome, and if nothing is being done about it in terms of tackling, the insecurity problems we have in the country. We're being joined very briefly by Alexander Ndukai. He's a legal practitioner just live here in the nation's capital. Good morning, Mr. Alexander. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for this great opportunity. Thank you.
All right, very quickly, give us an understanding about the move to consider the out-of-school children. We've seen government effort, but it looks like the effort is not enough. What are these driving factors and what should be done urgently? Because if we have a statistics, that's not even yet confirmed, or more than 20 million, as the case may be, isn't that we are still being exposed to having some of the insecurity problems we have in this country? Because Obasanjo just recently said that it's also a recruit waiting for Boko Harams. That's the case of former President of Rest.
The challenge of out-of-school children, especially in northern Nigeria, northern Nigerians, the elite in northern Nigeria have not woken up to the disasters waiting to happen, because it's just like a keg of gunpowder to sensitize the people and put the necessary pressure to ensure that these children are absorbed in schools. Most of the parents in northern Nigeria do not even care about training. Their concern is just to produce children and leave them to roam the streets, believing that it is God who cares, which is a very awkward concept for anybody in any part of the world to ever conceive, that your duty is to bring children to this world. God's duty is to train them. That is so horrible. So because of that, this number keeps increasing, and it's very easy. They are not trained, they are not engaged, they are frustrated, they are pained, they are wounded. So, anyone that beckons on them, they will just bend toward that. That is the fact on ground. So, our dear brothers and sisters in northern Nigeria should wake up, especially among the Muslim communities, to make sure that there's concerted effort and even government policy at the state level, local government level, to make sure that these children are moved at least to government schools, to get them productively engaged and get them trained and prepared to face the challenges of the future. Anyone who is not educated, who is not trained, who is not catered for, is open to anything that comes. They don't have even any value. I want to give an illustration. One of them was arrested by the police here in Nanya, and detained in the police station for 7 days. After 7 days, this young man called the IPO and said that he learned that at the correctional facility in Kefi, the prison in Kefi, those who are kept there are given food 3 times a day. He has spent 7 days with you here. He didn't give him any food. Can you please take him to prison in Kefi so that at least he can be getting food to eat? Can you imagine that kind of thing? So that's how it is. People need to wake up and ensure that these children move to school.
Oh, okay, thank you very much, Esquire. As a matter of fact, it's so good that you are a public affairs analyst and a human lawyer. And let me ask you now,
yes.
Looking at the number of children that are out of school today, then you look at not just the north now, because apart from the primary, secondary school, there are also people in tertiary institutions that cannot afford their tuition anymore, and they are leaving the school, and they are open to all of this. What do you think, all right, can be done to stop this? Because as it is right now, an idle hand is the workshop of the devil, and when someone is hungry, like you gave an instance of this young man who wants to go to prison so he can have 3 square meals. What do you think is the implication of this? in the society, not just in the north now?
You know, why I mentioned the north is that the greatest percentage comes from the north. That one is not debatable at all. But also, you know, with the current state of the economic policy of this current regime of President Ahmed Tinubu, the cost of everything is out of reach. Now, the cost of getting international passport has increased. The cost of renewing license, whether it's motorcycle, or tricycle, or motor vehicle, has increased. The cost of everything, go to business center, to tap a page is 300 for black and white, you know, colored is 500, and all kinds of things. And it keeps increasing. The electricity tariff, pump price of fuel. So people are choked, and because of that, landlords are increasing their rents every now and then. So people are even being thrown out of houses. Now, concerning the school, yes, a good initiative by this regime to talk of students' loan scheme for higher institutions. But many of these young ones sit for JAM, they get good score, and yet they are not given admission. And next year, they are asked to repeat the payment of any amount mentioned. They will sit for the exam. Many will still qualify, and they are not admitted, and this thing keeps piling up. So, there's need for a change of certain government policies. If JAM cannot accommodate, because the universities will tell you they don't have enough carrying capacity, and yet they blame those who manage to go to any other country that why are they living? Our own system is better than those countries. And you let them get dejected and abandoned and disappointed and frustrated. And you want them to sit so that every year they will keep contributing money for you and you will not get them admitted. So there are drastic measures that need to be taken. Either when somebody takes JAM and have the requisite score, if you are not accommodated this year, it means that by next year, you don't need to sit for JAM again. You need to be, first of all, absorbed because you are qualified. Concerted effort should be made. Then the loan scheme should be expanded so that as many as are managed to gain the admission and apply for the loan scheme should be able to get it in order for them to remain in school. Because many parents are incapable now of coping financially for the training of the children. And this regime should know that not just the issue of saying subsidy is gone, the aftermath of subsidy is excruciating, is grinding. I learned of what happened, I think last week, yes, when the secretary to the government of the federation had a meeting with the leaders of the organized labor, and the federal government promised to give them either 50 or so CNG buses, and now they went ahead to accommodate these labor leaders in boards.
All right. Okay. Mr. Ogbo Ndoka, let me bring this in now. While you were talking about the meeting with the government and the labor, something actually struck my mind, and that's the fact that a lot of people believe that statements that are being made this day are politically inclined. Some of the people will say, well, maybe because the person is not in support of the government, that's why they make some statements. Some people will look at it as a statement coming from an opposition. And recently, a lot of people have actually made statements towards the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, that he's oftentimes speaking about different things. Apart from Obasanjo right now, do you think this statement that has been made should be picked up by civil society organizations, and there should be a push? And how do you think this can be done? Because mere saying it may not result to anything except there is a force being applied. As a legal practitioner, what do you think can be done, all right, by maybe civil society organizations or other individuals or agencies to make sure these children are being taken out of the street. This may not just be the sole responsibility of the government alone.
Yes, former President Obasanjo has always been handy to put each regime on her toes. Anybody looking at his statement as coming from opposition is just deceiving himself. What he said is the fact on ground. Yes, indeed. Civil society organizations, NGOs, and all need to, hype on that thing he said and magnify it and do anything they can do on their own to also assist is much welcome because it's a challenge facing all of us. But most importantly, the current regime should do the highest because they have the power, they have the ability to do whatever that needed to be done. They have the means, to do whatever that could be done to at least reduce to the barest minimum the challenge. Seeing it as a statement of the opposition will be very insensitive, most insensitive. So every hand on deck should hype it and make sure that this thing is addressed. It is a time bomb that is challenging all of us. So nobody should downplay that statement. All hands should be on deck.
All right. A very big thank you, Mr. Nduka, political commentator. Thanks so much for joining us this morning on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm always available. Thank you.
All right, a whole lot of concern and instructions about how far we can always get it right. That's the case made by the former president Olusegun Obasanjo in respect to the out-of-school children in the country, where the ability for people to get, you have to most engage everyone in terms of the stakeholders. All hands must be on deck in response to these statistics we have in the country.
Well, you can't take that away. You can't take these statistics away. And like Nduka have said, the legal practitioner, this is the sole responsibility of everyone that has the capacity. You can pick just a child out of the street and you're playing a role contributing to nation building and trying to curb insecurity in the nation. So the NGOs, the agencies, individuals that have the capability or maybe the financial strength to do this can go ahead and make sure they do the needful to take these children out of the street so that our society can be void of these criminals.
Well, that's the size of a show this morning. A whole lot of concern on how we can go, but we'll bring all of these developments of the stories, reactions of stakeholders on the economy, on the sports and business, and all of that to you this morning and on the rest of the program here on Global Television. Thanks so much for being part of a morning show. See you again, and bye-bye for now.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they